Welcome back to the Strategic Veteran. I'm your host, Adam Peters, and today I'm honored to introduce a guest whose journey combines service, entrepreneurship, and dedication to helping others. David Jensen served in the Army for 4.5 years and continued with 2.5 years in the Army Reserves, rising to the rank of first lieutenant and currently serving as a captain in the Tennessee State Guard. David's experience spans logistics, supply chain management, and entrepreneurship. David joined the military to serve like his family before him. His time in service is profoundly shaped by his personal and professional life. During his military career, a pivotal moment occurred when he was selected to lead an Army emergency relief campaign, an opportunity that impacted him. Transitioning to civilian life, David struggled to find a fulfilling career. Still, instead of giving in to frustration, he leveraged his skills into a successful side hustle and entrepreneurial path, which continues to grow. Beyond business, David is deeply involved in volunteer work, building a community of camaraderie and making a difference in the lives of veterans and patriots. His story is one of resilience, adaptability, and leading through service. So let's explore David's journey, his challenges, triumphs, and vision for the future as we explore what it means to be a true strategic veteran. David, brother, welcome to the show, man.
Hey, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Of course, dude. Let's just jump right in. So what initially inspired you to join the Army, and what did that look like for you?
So my journey to the Army was basically it kind of all started back when 9/11 kicked off. What happened was it's a combination of both witnessing history and wanting to serve, and then combined with family tradition, because my late grandfather was a deep sea diver in the Navy. So he, of course, did that for a good 20 years. My older brother is a West Point grad and served as an armor officer in the Iraq War. So there was that family connection. And then 9/11 occurred. I was 13 at the time. I was in the 7th grade, living back in San Diego, which is my hometown. And I was having breakfast at my grandmother's house, and I get called to the TV, and I see the towers on fire, and I hear about what's going on. And it didn't hit me right then and there, but it didn't occur to me at that point, oh, I want to go kill terrorists and help our country. But over time, from there, I saw that combined with what my family had done, I decided that there was probably more that I can do. And my brother, he, of course, originally wanted to go Air Force, but he didn't get into the academy. He didn't get through the entrance exams. So he checked out West Point, and he saw just how incredible it was. And listening to him talk about it, I decided, hey, this looks like something I could get into. So that's when I decided to, after 3 years of junior college, trying to get myself together and get everything figured out, I transferred to San Diego State University, and that's where I became part of the ROTC program for the Army. And next thing you know, I'm a butter bar.
Yeah, dude. So you said you were 13 when 9/11 happened. I think we're probably the same age because I was a sophomore in high school. And I remember that's kind of what pushed me over the edge. I had been thinking about joining. I had been exploring kind of the options or whatever. And then I remember it like it was yesterday. I lived in the basement because I grew up in Southern Indiana. I had come upstairs because the basement wasn't finished yet. I didn't have a bathroom down there to shower in the morning and get ready for school. And my grandmother lived with us, and she was watching this all go down on TV when I got out of the shower. And she like called me into this room to sit down and watch this TV with her. And I couldn't believe what I was seeing. And I think that's pretty much what sent me over the edge too. I don't have kind of the lineage. I mean, my grandfather was a World War II medic, and then my uncle was drafted to go to Vietnam twice as a mortarman, but he never talked about it. And my grandfather died when I was young. So like I, by and large, am like the first in my family to kind of do the military thing, particularly as a career. So I relate to what you're saying a lot, man. How was the ROTC program? Because my advice to people now when they ask me is like, should my kid join the military? And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. But there's a better way to do it than what I did. And I always tell them, the first thing I tell them is ROTC to become an officer, because to me, it's just worth it in opportunity and pay scale, particularly if you're going to make a career out of it. And then also I tell them the Air Force, just because my sister and my brother-in-law were both in the Air Force, and their lives were infinitely better than mine as officers in the Air Force. So how was the ROTC experience? Am I giving people solid advice when I tell them to go through ROTC? Because I do believe it creates more opportunity, particularly I think even in the Army. I know I would see officers that would leave middle of deployments to go to their next assignments. Meanwhile, I'm getting moved to go on multiple deployments.
Yeah, I'd say your advice is pretty spot on. I mean, for me, I enjoyed the program. I mean, because everybody's talking about, this fraternity that they were a part of in school. Mine was ROTC, and I enjoyed it because it was, I mean, yeah, I was going to school to study a particular major, but at the end of the day, the ROTC program was probably my best experience from college, because it helped bring everyone together. It helped form the camaraderie. It helped form that brotherhood that you're going to have in the military. And I truly think that it's a good way to go, because if you're not, if you haven't gone through prior service and you don't know what it's like, but you want to understand what it's like, you can easily go through basic while in the program. But they also have programs where you can go and basically learn all of the basics about the service, and it gives you a taste of what basic is like. It's not exactly the same, but it's equivalent enough to give you that experience as to what you would go through, not both as a leader and a follower. And granted, I would definitely say, hey, if you want to join up, ROTC is a good way to go. I mean, yeah, OCS is also a good way, and maybe even like one of the service academies. But bear in mind, depending on what you get and which path you take is really gonna depend on how it's basically based on the competitiveness. Because
Right.
when I was in, they gave us a list of what component we wanted to be in. They gave us a list of what branches we wanted from top to bottom, and they gave us a list of bases that we wanted to go to. And the thing is that it's competitive enough because you're not just competing with everyone in your group at that school. You're competing with schools across the country, including the service academies. And the service academies, they get first pick, because they're at the top of the food chain, so they get first pick in everything. But my advice is, it also depends on what you want to do in the service, because there is one guy, Sean Buck Rogers, who does a YouTube channel talking about special operations and stuff, and all day he'll tell you, well, there's two ways to look at this. As an enlisted man, you're not going to get paid as much. You're not going to get as much respect, but you're going to get plenty of time in the field. You're going to get more time around your guys. Officers, of course, we're basically just pencil pushers. We're the guys behind the desk doing this and that. But the upside of it is that you're going to get more pay and you're going to get more respect. So yeah, going officer is a good way to go, because it's a better quality of life. You're going to get more out of it. But if I was going to tell my kids who wanted to join, I mean, just like you, get your degree and go office and go Air Force.
Yeah, right.
Because it's all about quality of life. And
Yeah.
the Air Force is all about quality of life.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. So you finished the ROTC program. What did your branch end up being?
So my first picks were originally quartermaster and Fort Bragg. That's only because unlike everyone else who was interested in going combat and whatnot, I wanted to go for something like quartermaster because I wanted all the schools, airborne, air assault, and rigor and what have you. I wanted to do all the cool stuff. But in the end, I ended up with active, which is what I was going for. And I ended up with both my second choices, which was transportation as my branch and Fort Campbell, which was my second choice.
And transportation, you're not getting any of those cool schools, are you?
Not necessarily. I mean, there are some schools that you could be able to get later on based on where you're going and whatnot. But I fulfilled getting air assault. But then again,
that's because you went to Campbell.
Yeah, that's where it's all about air assault. So yeah, I managed to get at least that. So I mean, but it all worked out because at the end of the day, I was like, you know what, it's still a branch connected to logistics, and the other reason was that with logistics, once you get out, there's always a need for logistics. Very well, so I thought it was at least a good career to fall back on. But it all worked out too because it was at Campbell near the tail end of my service when I met my wife, and
nice.
Got married sometime after I got out of the service. So it all worked out.
Well, and Campbell's kind of home for you, right?
Oh yeah. Well,
yeah.
I live in Middle Tennessee now, but every now and then I make a trip up to Campbell, just to see what's going on, do a little shopping up there. And the funny thing about Campbell is that it's a border base.
Right.
The base sits on the Tennessee and Kentucky border, and most of the base is on the Tennessee side, but because of the post office, Kentucky gets to claim it.
Right.
So that's but hey, I mean, it could go either way. Some people live on the Kentucky side. I lived on the Tennessee side in Clarksville. So
yeah, Clarksville is a gorgeous area, and if I'm not mistaken, it's Hopkinsville. That's the Kentucky side, right?
Oak Grove, Hopkinsville.
Yeah, Hopkinsville is where my grandmother was born, and of course, I grew up in southern Indiana, so not too far from Campbell. I think it's like a 2-hour drive for my hometown to Campbell. So I was always trying to get there until I served. The Rakasans replaced us on my first deployment, and I saw how shitty their leadership was and how many people they got killed. So I stopped trying to get to Campbell after that as an infantry guy. But so in your career, you mentioned one of the pivotal moments that's really shaped everything that you're doing today was being chosen to lead an AER campaign. So let's talk about that for a minute. For those who don't know, AER is Army Emergency Relief, and I'm sure David here is going to explain a whole lot more about how AER works and what leading a campaign looks like. But it's a really cool program that I myself had to take advantage of at one point while I was in the Army, trying to get home for some emergency leave for the death in the family or some stuff like that. But talk about what that campaign was, why you were chosen to lead it, and kind of why it was so pivotal for you and how it shaped what you're doing now.
So as you said, AER is Army Emergency Relief. They are basically in charge of financial assistance for soldiers who don't have all the finances to help out. And of course, as we all know, enlisted men don't get paid nearly as much as what the officers get paid. So,
yeah, not even close. Because my check when I was a private in 2003 was $800 a month. That was it.
Yeah. And as you know, as an enlisted guy or even as an officer, there's a lot of stuff you're going to do. You're going to buy a house, you're going to buy a car, you're going to buy stuff that you, special gaming systems that you want here and there. And at the same time, you're also trying to take care of your family, but you don't have all the necessary money to help you. So AER will help get you either a loan or a grant, which you can use to help pay off some of the medical bills or help pay off a late payment on your car or help get the mortgage set up. And the pivotal part of AER is when they have their fundraising campaign each year. And basically what that does is it allows the Army to get back to the Army itself. So every year they set it up to where all of the units on the base from the top down each has a representative to help collect funds from all the soldiers, regardless of their rank, regardless of what they can offer. And they basically take that, put it into their system, and then basically use it to help out the military in the long run. So some will give quite a bit. Others will only give like $1. And $1 may not sound like a lot, but if you put it in perspective, that extra $1 could very well go to a soldier who doesn't have enough to buy groceries or doesn't have enough to get essentials for their kids. So it's a really good program and a great way to get back to the Army itself. And I, of course, was chosen because, believe it or not, the unit I was in was mainly a logistics unit. But the problem is that our unit for a long time was a separate entity. We were completely separate from the 101st. We were more of an attachment, I guess you could say, or detachment, however you want to put it. And so that made us an entity unto ourselves. And when you're separate from the main force, you basically form your own rules. And you basically are going to do stuff that is not the same as the rest of the unit. So there's a lot of people, basically, because we're logistics, we're part of the support network. So we're going to do things completely different. But that leads to a lot of negativity and a lot of stuff going on with the leadership, to where there's favoritism, there's not a lot of great leadership. And I, of course, got screwed over in getting I went from my service as a platoon leader, got cut short. I was sent to admin, and I worked as a secretary. But in between, I, of course, was chosen to be an auditor for AER. Basically go in and check out all of their, make all their books, make sure everything is good. And I also served as a campaign representative, helping collect funds to give to AER. And then later, after that, they needed somewhere to place me. And AER was going around trying to find somebody to run the campaign. And most of the time, it's an enlisted man. It's an enlisted man who's running it. But I, of course, kind of got sidelined. They didn't really give me a whole lot to do, and I was looking for something to do. So the unit chose me to go take over for the campaign, and I took over that campaign and ran it for 2016. And then I also stepped up and volunteered to take over for the 2017 campaign when one soldier wasn't able to finish it. So, but I managed. I, of course, took on the task, and I ran the entire campaign. I basically walked everybody through, what the program is, how it works, how they could contribute, and basically saying, hey, if you have something to give and you want to give, then go ahead go ahead and do your donation, and we'll bring it up. I would then take all the money that was gathered, take it to the bank, put it on a special check, and then be able to put it back into the system. And that of course taught me a big thing, because it taught me that, hey, you're not just serving your country, you're serving the military that you're in as well, and it's a good way to help give back to your fellow soldiers. And I've seen a lot of the struggles that the enlisted go through. So, but that's how I got chosen. I'm probably the only officer to ever do it, but it was an incredible experience, and it also got me out of a negative environment.
Yeah. And not only that, but it's shaped what you're doing in your personal life today, something that I think largely helped you get through your transition. So let's talk about your transition. 4.5 years is up. It's time. You decided it's time to get out of active duty. It sounds like there's a lot of reasons for that. Mainly the environment you were working in was just not that great. Usually my question is, how was the transition from active duty to the reserves or the guard? Because, in my experience, I never served in anything but the active duty, but I had a lot of buddies, particularly from the infantry, that would go to the guard or the reserves, and they just couldn't handle it because it was so different than what they were used to on active duty, and they were miserable. So it sounds like the reserves may have been a better place for you based on what your experience was with active duty. So what led to the decision to get out, and what was that transition like for you?
So my decision to leave was a combination of a reprimand and a passover for promotion. Basically what happened is because there wasn't a whole lot for us to do, especially the company that I was in, it was a movement control team. And a lot of what we do, we of course keep track of vehicles, see where they're going, but that's about it. And like when we go to the field, we basically did next to nothing. So we probably were sitting there. We were spending time trying to go through classes just to keep everybody on their feet. We would basically spend the rest of the time napping, hanging out, shooting the crap. And so, I mean, there was a lot of, and one of the things that I did to pass the time was I would watch YouTube, and I would basically, look for stuff to watch. And me being a history buff, I'm always looking at stuff, sometimes good, some of it good, some of it bad. And I made the fateful decision and the biggest mistake in the world by watching documentaries on neo-Nazis and the Ku Klux Klan. Somebody saw that, they complained, and I basically said, hey, I'm sorry, that wasn't meant to be offensive. And one thing led to another, and I ended up getting a reprimand for it, which more or less killed my career at that point. But
so because you're interested in history, what you chose to watch in the field instead of, on your personal time, you ended up with a letter of reprimand for that?
Yeah, because people heard me say certain things or do certain things that they, of course, thought was inappropriate.
They took it out of context. They didn't mind their own fucking business.
Yeah, they took it out of context. They didn't know what was really going on. And I talked to some of them about it, and they said, hey, we're not offended by it. I mean, yeah, you're different. You watch a lot of crazy crap, but you're not a racist. You're not that kind of guy. But everything got taken out of context. And before that, I had gotten passed over for promotion once already. But once I got the reprimands, that was it. That was it. I didn't know it at the time, but I later found out that once you get a reprimand, you're basically done for. So that combined with being passed over a second time, basically meant, okay, well, I've been passed over. I've also got a reprimand. So I'm basically going to be getting out. And that's when I started the transition process, trying to figure out how to find a job, write a resume, and that of course was a new thing for me, because I did a resume when I was in college. I got an idea of how to write one, but this was the first time when I actually had to sit down and write an official resume and go through the process of looking for a job. And
Yeah, and let's be honest, the Army, what you got out in what, 17? So was it still 18? Was it ACAP still, or was it SFL TAP at that point?
I think it was TAP at that point.
TAP. It's not a good program either way. They don't really teach you much. So, now you're fish out of water trying to figure it out on your own, more or less.
Yeah, they gave us the basics of it and what to do, but they basically said, hey, here's how you're going to do it. This is the resources that you got, and basically go figure it out. So I started looking around. I was looking at law enforcement. I was looking at logistics jobs and whatnot. And I finally found something through the Texas Veterans Commission, because at that point I was ready to move out and start fresh somewhere else. And that's when I got that's why I ended up with a position at the VA in San Antonio. But I ended up getting terminated from that over some BS that upset somebody again. And ever since then, I've probably had like 8 or 9 jobs ever since leaving the service. And it's been tough, because for me, I'm trying to find stuff that I can actually enjoy, or actually keep me moving, help me get at least a paycheck. And the problem is that a lot of the lower stuff, like being a package handler at UPS or a picker at Amazon, anyone can get that. I mean, they're not screening for anything.
Have you done those jobs?
Yes, I've done
both of those too. The worst one was working at a warehouse in Columbia, South Carolina for Amazon. It was the absolute worst job I've ever done in my entire life. The management is absolutely fucking terrible. There's zero personal that you are. To explain this, I'm trying to think the best way to explain this, because putting it into words, the way Amazon treats its employees on that level, at least, it's atrocious, man. Like, I've never felt like, I know in the Army, right, for example, we're just numbers. Like, you really are just number, and you don't realize that till you're getting out. And a lot of things happen when you're getting out. Like for me in the med board, I got relegated to range control, which is where good NCOs go to die, right? Like, it's punishment, but it's also like kind of hooking you up and like kind of like, hey, you're done. Like, we understand you're done, but we don't want to just like shit on you. So go enjoy some time off and do range control. But at Amazon, it was weird to me because nobody knew my name. They had a computer. The managers had a computer that they would walk around with, a laptop that had your picture on it. They would scan your badge to come up with, to see the numbers that you were doing. I was a picker, so I was pulling. No, I was not. I was not a picker. I was actually the guy that opens boxes and puts shit in bins, whatever the fuck that was. And I thought I was moving pretty fucking quick. And like, I actually was moving pretty quick, but it was never enough. It was never, ever enough. They'd always come around. Now, mind you, this is I don't know, probably a 500,000 square foot warehouse that you're putting shit in. So you can go find a dark corner, be by yourself to just do what you want to do, do the job. And I was doing the job, but like, it was never enough and nobody ever knew me. I quit on the spot. I just walked out one day because they would give us 30 minutes for lunch. The only place you can go for lunch is their cafeteria. But by the time I would walk from the corner of the warehouse to the cafeteria, I would have to turn around and walk back because I was out of time. I'm a 30-year-old man having to ask permission to go to a bathroom on my shift, and you can get written up for not asking permission to go to the bathroom. And I was like, this is so dumb. Now, my experience with UPS was much different. I was a seasonal delivery driver for them, making a really good amount of money. And I got hooked up with an awesome driver. So I was getting all kinds of hours, and it was kind of fun because all I'd have to do is meet my driver, load some boxes into my car, and go deliver the boxes. It was very straightforward. They treated me well. They paid me well. they would offer me extra hours if I wanted them. They would very communicative, like, hey, we don't have any extra for you today. You can go meet with this driver over here if you want to get some hours. So I just think it's interesting because I've had a lot of jobs too. And those two that you just mentioned, I've done both of them and they were awful. Well, UPS wasn't so bad, but Amazon was terrible.
Oh God, yes. I felt I'm in the same boat because I was picking. I was a picker. I was going through pulling out items, looking up items, pulling them out, putting in the bin to send off. And there were times where there was some of the aisles were maybe 3-4 people deep. You're basically trying to get around people. You're trying to get certain items. You're trying to meet your quota. And I didn't have to ask permission to go to the bathroom. I just went. But at the same time, people were saying, "Oh, you're taking too many bathroom breaks. You're taking too long." And it got to the point where they almost fired me because I wasn't meeting the quota. And then I mentioned that I've got ADHD, and I'm like, well, wait a minute. Well, wait, you might have a savior there because if you have a disability, you can go and get something written up saying that, hey, this is what's going on with your disability, and we can accommodate you. So I go to the VA, get something written up, bring it back to them, and they say, this doesn't sound. You're going to need to be more specific, like how many breaks or what you have to do. So I go back to the VA second time. They write it up again, even more specific. I bring it back to Amazon, and they're like, still not specific enough. Yeah. And we told the VA, and they're like, no, we have been as specific as we can. We are not doing another one. And because I had wasn't meeting the quota as much or wasn't doing as well as they said it would stay on your record for a while and it would affect you. And that right there basically led me to have a panic attack in the middle of the fucking warehouse. And after that, I basically was like, that's it. I'm done. Yeah. I walked in and said, hey, I'm resigning. And I resigned on the app, clocked out, and walked out of there. And I didn't get about 18 months later or so, I get on with UPS, or 6 months after that, I get on with UPS, and UPS was good to me. I mean, decent hours, decent pay, but management was getting on my case because they would tell us one thing, and we would have to, like, they tell us we got to keep the line moving, and boxes would pile up. So we keep the line moving. We don't turn it off. And said, well, we got to get this under control. Well, one day I stopped the line to get everything fixed up or back on track. And then they come up and said, dude, use common sense here. And then they took over from me and they just started doing it themselves rather than let me handle it or figure it out. That threw me into panic mode, and I made the fateful decision to drive home after that while still on edge, which led me into a car accident. And after that, I was like, you know what? I'm done. I can't do this anymore. So the other problem that I ran into was stuff like UPS and Amazon, you can get hired on immediately.
Yeah.
Whereas I use stuff like Lucas Group or Bradley Morris to try and find a job. And the problem that I ran into was it took me a while to figure this out, but what they're looking for nowadays is not so much your education, but they're looking for experience. They want to see that you have enough experience to do the job. And I unfortunately I of course have been in and out of jobs for God knows how long. I didn't have all the experience. I even tried going through the Warriors for Wireless program to become a tower technician, and that of course they only give you the bare minimum, and then you get hired on by a company to get training through them, and you basically go from there. But the other problem with that was that I of course got through the program, right when Corona kicked off.
Oh,
So
great.
yeah, so I of course didn't get as much time. I was working with people who have done this before. They kind of rushed me into the field without giving me the proper training or time to acclimate and whatnot, and it didn't pan out the way I wanted to, and it really threw me for a loop because, like, for me, the military is the only thing that I knew. That was what I wanted to do with my life, and it threw me for a loop because I'm here trying to find a job, and the civilian world is nothing like what it is in the military. And as with the reserves, instead of me going to them, they actually reached out to me. They actually contacted me and said, "Hey, would you like to come back in?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'd love to." The only problem is that when I got in, I was trying to find a logistics group, and they stick me in a training unit. And for that, every drill, we come in, we sit in a classroom, we go through different training, and then we go do admin work here and there. And that was the group I was with for all of the pandemic. And I then tried transitioning to another unit because if I wanted to get promoted, I had to go and do stuff that was more or less along the lines of my MOS, which was transportation.
Right.
So I go to a new unit, and the AGR guy there said, "Hey, I just might have a spot for you here, like, or I could easily place you." I get down there for my very first drill, and they're like, "Sorry, but we don't really have anything for you." Like, the unit was flooded with second lieutenants or lieutenants who haven't even gone through their training yet. So I mean, it's like seriously, get all the way down there. They tell me they don't have anything for me, and then I try to go through and do my PT test, and I end up failing that, and they're like, "You're gonna have to do some hard thinking, and unfortunately, we don't have anything for you. So until you can get yourself together, it's probably best you go back to IRR."
Jesus. So at
Yeah.
what point did you start your side hustle and see entrepreneurship as the path forward?
So that actually goes back to when it actually went back to the time when I was in Texas. There was a couple who I had met on LinkedIn, and they had told me that they were involved in a business where it was basically it was an online business, and I think it had something to do with e-commerce. But the problem is that they kind of give us a vague answer, like they didn't say who it was with, what you would do, and for us, that kind of sounded shady to us. But I kept in touch with them. I kept them on the back burner, and then 18 months later, when I was leaving the last group, to I just walked away from a second job with a tower company, which which unfortunately did not pan out, and I basically was at the point where, hey, I'm away from my family. I'm in the middle of a state during the pandemic, the George Floyd riots, and everything's starting to get to me. I gotta do something. So I called them up and said, "Hey, can you help me out?" And he sat me down. And he said, "For starters, go read a book called Rich Dad Poor Dad, and then give me a call." I listened to the audiobook, called him back, and we then sat down, and he shows us the business plan, and he says, "The business we're in is Amway." Well, I, of course, have never heard of Amway at that point. I never even knew it existed. And I told my wife about it. It was like, "Wait, what? It's Amway?" And then we both sit down, we see the plan, and she's like, "We got to do this. We got to get in on this." Because she actually heard of Amway before. In fact, her family used to sell Amway. and they used all their products, and my wife was like, "Hey, if they had told us up front that this was Amway, not only would we still be in Texas, but we probably wouldn't have got in on this a lot sooner." So it's June of 2020. We're in the middle of the pandemic. I get started on at Amazon, and I'm basically getting started in the business, and we've been a part of it ever since. And we're in the process of expanding our business, looking for customers, as well as trying to build our own business team of individuals who can help.
So for those who aren't familiar with Amway, I know Amway as it gets a bad rap as an MLM, and I've never actually talked to anybody that's got or had success with Amway. I've been recruited to Amway before. I've participated in other MLMs like Isogenics. That was one. And what I found with all those programs is, like, at least my experience was, a lot of them don't tell you how to build the business. They just are eager to sign you up because you're affecting their bottom line, right? Like, you're building a team. It's the same experience I had in the insurance world, right? Like, when you build your own insurance agency, they bring you in as a 1099 contractor. You start writing business. That business is paid out to whoever brought you on, and then you get to a certain level, and then it's time for you to start bringing people onto the team, right? So very MLM like, and then residuals kick in, all of that stuff. And it was the same problem in the insurance world. Nobody teaches you how to do that stuff. So these people that you were hooked up in Texas with, did they actually give you the roadmap and the blueprint and, like, kind of the skills to actually do this, or did you have to figure it the fuck out on your own like most people do?
So the short answer is they actually work with us on the business, because the big difference is, and this goes out to everyone who's heard of Amway, but those who haven't, Amway stands for the American way, and they actually were started back in 1959 with a couple of World War II vets who served in the Air Force, and they started it out. And a lot of people are going to say, "Oh, it's like a cult, it's like a pyramid scheme," and that's not necessarily the case. I mean, yes, they get pretty radical about certain subjects, be it religion, politics, whatever. But here's the thing: Amway they do use like a pyramid business model, but it's not a pyramid scheme in that, where they're not trying to recruit anybody. They are simply looking for people who want to build that business, who want to do something on the side where they could get out of their 9 to 5. Because there's a lot of people in the business who were unhappy with the 9 to 5 gig. Like, there was one guy on our team who we're under. He was an engineer working for a top job, and the job that he got right out of school was, he was traveling 100% of the time. He would go to a different city each week to work on a project, and it was driving him crazy because he wanted to have a little bit more freedom in his life. And then he heard about this business, and he stepped away from his job and got a regular 9 to 5 job so that he could have time to focus on building his business. And he managed to leave. He managed to get out of the rat race in the year that I got out of the Army. So the thing is that with Amway, it's different in that they actually have products that you could put your hands on, products that you could actually see and use. And the other thing is that with Amway, you actually have it set up now to where you can actually surpass your upline in terms of earnings, but nobody makes earnings off of the people below them. as you go up in the business, when you're helping more people, the people below you can actually make more than you.
So let's talk about how this works then. What were the first steps for you? Because my experience with any kind of pyramid slash MLM, kind of those organizations that get that rap, is the first thing. Same with the insurance. Sell to your friends and family first. Your warm market, right? Like now, all of us know that's incredibly challenging. I personally think in sales, you're better off starting cold calling than you are trying to sell to your warm market. It's there's a barrier there. When you're trying to sell to friends and family, there's an element of embarrassment. There's, this element of confusion. Like, these people, I don't know. You don't want to blow the relationship up with them. You're very new at the business. You don't know what the fuck you're doing. So, you just don't. I don't think it's good advice to sell to your warm market. But what do I know? I'm not like a top tier sales guy, so it doesn't really matter. It's just how I feel about it. And, I think I'm doing okay. So let's talk about like, what did they do to help you become successful with this? Because I really am fascinated by you and your story. And you are the first person I've talked to with Amway that is having some kind of success and is to a point where they're going to scale the business. I assume, because we haven't talked about it yet, that you are making a livable wage from doing this. So I'm very curious to unpack all of that.
All right. So for starters, we've been at the business for 4 years, or going on 4.5 years soon. But the thing is that we're not as successful yet as everyone else is, because we've been in the business for 4 years now, and we have a few customers who we're selling to, but we're still working on building a team of our own. And basically, as we tell everyone else, this is not a get rich quick scheme. This is not something that's going to make you a millionaire overnight. In order to run a business like this, it takes time, patience, and you have to put in the effort in order to build it on the side. So just like, because we tell everyone, this is like something to where, like, with it being a side hustle, you basically, in your free time, you build it the best way that you can. And a lot of times we tell people, just keep it simple. Do what you're comfortable with doing. And like, sure enough, there's people in this business who will tell you, hey, when we got started, we were terrible at this thing. It took us a long time to finally, like, one guy only set like a small goal to go like a certain percentage of volume that he's getting. And he kept doing that. And sooner or later, he started building more revenue. He started talking to more people, and now he's one of the top guys in the business. And the thing about Amway is that the executives at the top who started this thing, they do all the heavy lifting. So like product testing, product development, insurances, liabilities, and stuff like that. That's all handled by the people at the top. So they do all the heavy lifting, and you basically are given a website to where people can go and view your products and see what you're doing. And that website is what you run, and you basically start building the business from there.
So it's up to you to do the marketing and drive traffic to the website, but they're providing you the platform to do it.
Yeah, they give you they give you the products, they give you all the resources, but it's different now because with being an Amway, you need that kind of help to actually get the word out. So one of the individuals who's in the business, he started a group called LTD, which is Leadership Team Development. And that gives you access to all their resources, audios, books, conferences we go to, and everyone there talks about their experience, and they talk about how you can grow personally and professionally and develop your skills. So if you're not great at selling yourself or selling a product or trying to get people interested. And that's the other thing. We don't hire anyone. We don't recruit anyone. We're not trying to get people to join. What we're looking for is we're looking for entrepreneurs who want, or like-minded individuals who want to build something for themselves, who want to get that camaraderie, who want to be able to get around that team of individuals who think exactly like them. And LTD is basically going to help you with everything. So they'll tell you about their experiences to where they started out bad, but then they got more comfortable in talking to people about products, trying to determine what their needs are, seeing how they can help them in their everyday life. And they're also looking for people who, they go out and they talk to everybody and say, hey, are you looking for ways to make some extra money, or do you want to be entrepreneurial and work with like-minded people? And people like that are the ones that we're going for. So if you're serious about wanting to build something for yourself that you could pass on to your family, and me and my wife, we've been doing this together. That's the neat thing, is that we're working on this together as husband and wife, and we're going to pass it on to our kids in the long run, or at least we hope we will. But the other big thing for me, one guy on the team was told by their mom, I think I want you to do it because these are some of the finest people you will ever meet. And whether you make a dime or not, you need to be around these people, because how they think and how they do stuff is going to change your mindset completely. And it's helped me grow both personally and professionally, because I'm not the same person that I was when I started this business.
Yeah, it's awesome, man, because there's a lot of grinding that has to happen in order for you to get any kind of traction with that. And joining LTD and being a part of that, it reminds me of the exact reason I created the Stronghold, right? A community for veterans to transition better and learn about entrepreneurship, get help with their businesses. It's a community of like-minded people who are on the same path as you, who are going to have answers and experiences that you don't have yet. And that's super important. And I like that you said, even something like Amway is not a get-rich-quick scheme. There's a lot of grinding and hard work that has to go into it, just like anything else. People who get rich overnight, those are outliers. That's not the common thing. My advice is always to people, when you set out on an endeavor to build something that's your own, 2 to 5 years. 2 to 5 years is what it's going to take. 2 on the slow side, 5 years on the long side, right? And could be sooner, could be longer, but I'm coming up on a year. I do have revenue, but it's not a livable wage yet. But I'm still kind of blown away by what I was able to accomplish in a year, which makes me wonder, by the time I hit 2 years and then 5 years, where am I actually going to be at? And that's the cool part. And I think something that, at least for me in the business world, that I get to latch onto that kind of continues to give me motivation is like, yeah, the first 6 or 8 months was a fucking grind with nothing to show for it, just throwing money at the damn thing. And then you make that first money and then you're like, oh, this is really working. And then it starts to double, and then it starts to triple. Yeah. And then you're like, oh, this is really cool. But for me, what's even cooler is you and I are a lot alike in the civilian world, in that I've had a ton of different jobs. I at least 10 different jobs in the 8 years that I was out. And most of those came in the last 4 or 5 years. And what I found was I was just largely unemployable. I hated working with people and just being kind of this less than, like the Amazon gig or the UPS gig or whatever. And being largely happy to get up every single day and and work with the people that I get to work with and talk to people like you who are building something for themselves, like it doesn't get old to me. It's cathartic for me. It's fun. And so I love like where you're going with all of this, because it is a grind to create this legacy that you can pass down to your kids, just like your wife, whose parents were involved with Amway. I think that's awesome, because you now have a resource to go to and be like, yo, how did you guys do this? And where are we fucking up? And how can we do better? And so that's awesome, man.
Yeah, and the other thing that we like to tell people, even before or when they get into business, is you're in business for yourself, but not by yourself. So in other words, what we mean by that is, yes, you are running your own business, you're building your own business, but we are here to help you. We are here to help you figure out how can we go out and talk to people? How can we get people interested in our products? Or how can we help somebody who wants to be an entrepreneur like us? They're going to help you every step of the way. They're not just going to leave you high and dry, and they're not going to certainly not going to tell you, hey, here's what you can do. Go and figure it out. So if you're at a point where in the business you can't figure it out, or you're having trouble trying to talk to people, you can easily pick up the phone, call one of these guys, or send them a message. Hey, what advice do you have for me? And they'll send you a quick message, or they'll sit down and talk to you, and they'll work with you. And that's the other thing too. And like in any other side hustle, whether it's like being a notary, real estate agent, or even if you're doing freaking lawn care, what do you need? You need customers. You need people that you can go and say, hey, this is what I can offer. Let me see if I can help you. So it's not gonna. And like I said, the best way to look at it is like this. When Amway started out, to use a Batman analogy, when it started out, it came out as the first Batman. People saw it. People got interested.
The Adam West Batman.
I actually more along the lines of Michael Keaton. But you get in, they see Batman. It's Batman 89, and they're like, hey, this isn't bad. Then you have the group that gets in, and they see Batman Return. They see that it's Batman Returns. They get the negativity. They get the bad rap for it. So they got to go back and revamp it, and they make it look like Batman Forever. They make it more kid-friendly for everybody. But when people get in, some people get into this business and they think, hey, if we get in and we do this, we can be making the revenue of the Dark Knight overnight.
Right.
And then we'll be rich.
No, that's not how anything works.
Yeah, get in and they see it and they're like, they're only making the revenue of like Batman and Robin, and they're like, oh, don't do that. That's a waste of time. You're not going to make any money. But bear in mind that Batman, the character from the comics to where we are now, it took time to get there. It took time for Batman to develop and for people to put their own spin on it. So yeah, you may start at the bottom, which is Batman and Robin, but you get through all the negativity, you get through all the bad stuff, you put in the time and the effort, and soon you'll be showing, hey, this is my version of the franchise.
Yeah.
So it's not, so just like you said, it's not going to happen overnight. Just like how Rome wasn't built in a day, your business is not going to grow overnight. I mean, you can't expect to go out the next day, look for a bunch of people and say, hey, you want to get in on this business with me? Or, hey, here's some products, try them out, and then buy some from me. No. You got to put, like I said, time, patience, and effort that you got to put in. And that's what we've been doing for the last 4 years. And yes, we're not far along as we were hoping for. But at the end of the day, I'm doing this because, I'm not doing it to be famous. I'm not even doing this to get rich. rich. I mean, yeah, I'm going to make money in it, but it's all about trying to help people and like in this case, help my fellow vets. Because I know there's plenty of guys, even in the National Guard, who are finding it hard to hold down steady work. Like the National Guard Special Forces guys, they're basically biting the bullet here because they're gone so much, doing so much stuff. It's hard for them to hold down employment, and they're left and right. But I'm hoping to help everyone. But my ultimate goal is I want to help give back to the military and help give back to our vets and help get them to where, hey, if you want to build something for yourself, you want to get out of the 9-to-5 grind, you want to live life on your terms, let me help you. Let me show you what I got. And if it's not your cup of tea, no hard feelings.
I love it, man, dude. Tell everybody how they can find you on social media, where they can find out more information about what you got going on with Amway, and how they can reach out if they are interested in starting this for themselves.
So for anyone who wants to get in on it, you can find me on LinkedIn. That's where I'm looking. That's where I do a lot of my people searching. If you want, I'm always on LinkedIn looking for people who I can help with. You can find me on Facebook, which is where we have we also have our Amway page. And for those who want to, if you want to see what our business is or what it has to offer, you can go to our website. The website is www.amway.com/myshop/Jensen. And they can go to that website. They can easily check out the products, see what we have to offer. And anyone who would love to get in on the business, hit me up on social media. You can even give me a call. My phone number is 619-994-5534. And if you want to see it, if you're in a part of the country, because Amway is global. It's not just all over the U.S. It's all over the world. So they have a big, big footprint. And so my advice to anyone who wants to get in on it, if you're serious about it, if you're willing to put in the time and you got the patience and you want to put in the effort to build something, is, hop on a call with us. Let us talk to you and see how serious you are and see if you're a good fit. And if you're near someplace that has people where people that are in the business and you want to see how it works, attend a meeting with us. We can even show you can come. We can even hop on a Zoom call. We can show you the business plan. We can show you how it works. And we'll even say, hey, and then you could then come to us and say, hey, this is something that I want to get in on. Or you'll basically say, hey, not my cup of tea, but I'll keep you in mind later on. And that's all we're doing. I'm not looking for people who feel like they have to do this. I'm looking for people who want to do this. Because when I got in, I was thinking that, make some extra money, make a little money because I need it. But when I started learning more about what this business was all about and learning about how it can help others, that's what got me going.
It's the thing that could set you free.
Yes. So if anyone is serious about the business, you can find me on LinkedIn, find me on Facebook. I can talk to anybody. And if you want to be able to do something with your life to where you can give back to others, come find us, give us a shout. We're more than happy to help you.
Awesome, brother. Ladies and gentlemen, I give to you Mr. David Jensen. David, thank you so much for your time today. Please don't forget to like, rate, review, subscribe, download this episode, share it with everybody. Help me accomplish the goal of getting this in front of 1 million veterans by the time I turn 40 on May 9th, 2025. Lofty goal, but we can do it as a veteran community. Again, David, thank you so much for your time today and all this valuable information. I can't wait to put this out to the audience, and really just appreciate you, man. Until next week, we'll see you guys next week. Later.
Thank you for having me.